Classical multiculturalism. What do we want to follow to create what we believe is going to be a better individual, a better community, a better nation? So, classical multiculturalism, which is what our books, our textbooks represent. So, multicultural societies are composed of various individuals who possess primary and secondary cultures. They're taught in their upbringing and subject to change by addition or subtraction. These individuals will be judged by their merit of their character, their ability, using universal and objective principles that apply to all. Now, in many multicultural classes that are more cultural Marxist by nature, that's their lens, is quite different. They're going to say, no, multicultural societies are composed of separate classes of people that possess only one culture. It's assigned to them by birth due to their race or their skin color or their geographical place of birth. This group or class cannot change, nor can it be judged by anyone outside the group. So, for example, if someone is American and they see someone in Russia, and maybe for that family, the man is beating the wife. If they say, well, that's our culture, then it's like, oh, okay, well, only other Russians can judge if that's right or wrong, not you as the American. Or maybe someone comes to America and they see all this fast food and people getting overweight, hurting their health, problems with their heart attacks, high cholesterol, high blood pressure. Now, if the person from the outside said something was wrong, they would say from the cultural Marx view, oh, that's okay, because you can attack American society. But if we see a whole bunch of those fast food restaurants in another place, and it's created by that other nation, no, don't talk about that. So again, we see the inconsistencies, and we see the division. There's no objectivity. Another aspect, classical multiculturalism. Multicultural societies are prosperous when primary cultural values, morals, and higher order thinking are identified. We've seen so many times in classrooms, in businesses, where you have people from many different lands originally, or maybe they're all from the United States, but different ethnicities, skin colors, backgrounds. And yet they get along very well, a lot of teamwork, a lot of success, because they share these three areas in common. And we believe very much that these are the three most important foundational truths. Your values, what's important to you. Your moral, what is considered right and what is considered wrong. And your higher order thinking, the levels of intelligence, the levels of cognitive processing. If those three are mostly aligned, skin color just doesn't really mean anything. You're going to be close to that person. You're going to have unity. And if they're not aligned, it doesn't matter if they're the same skin color or the same nationality. You're going to have trouble and disunity with that person. Neo-Marxist multiculturalism, though, they're going to say that societies are prosperous when perceived Western power structures are torn down, allowing non-Western power structures to emerge and relish in their freedom and assume compliance to a new social stratification based on oppression and victimhood. So there's kind of like no end game. It's just, let's tear down the West and all the power structures that we think are the West. A lot of them aren't even true, but they would identify that as someone who's white or Anglo, nuclear family, heterosexual, Christian religion. And let's take that down and let's put anyone who's not one of those. A lot of times they'll say people of color, or someone who's homosexual or transgender, and maybe someone who's a different religion besides Christianity. Let's put them up. So again, multiculturalism with neo-Marxist multiculturalism. Let's see what the ideologies say as far as what is the path forward. What is the end game? Where do we want to end up as individuals, as societies? With classical multiculturalism, we're going to say that a pluralistic society is most successful when there's a majority which possess high commonality in primary shared values. What are those shared values? Well, individual dignity, individual equality, strong families, education, personal development, personal maturity, scientific method. If we value all of these, we're going to see communities come together. We're going to see true unity, not something that's just based on something peripheral like skin color. Now, neo-Marxists, they're going to say, well, here's the way forward. Society is most successful when perceived historical Western power structures, that is, patriarchy, whiteness, nuclear family of one man and one woman with biological children, Christian faith, are removed from social power. You decide. Classical multiculturalism will say a pluralistic society is most successful when there's a majority which possess high commonality and primarily shared morals. What are those morals? Well, classical virtues. Regardless of religion or no religion at all, love, truth, wisdom. These have always been considered the three highest virtues throughout the world. The second tier would be integrity, responsibility, kindness, honesty, compassion, purity. These are common values. What would neo-Marxist multiculturalism, what would they say is the path forward? Well, a pluralistic society, meaning again, people of many different types of ethnicities, cultures, skin colors, is most successful when people understand that morals are subjective and relative. There are no universals. There's no absolutes. Basically, people just behave the way they want to behave. If they feel like it, they're going to do it. If it's good for them, great. If it's bad for you, well, you'll have to figure that out. Perceived non-Western groups or classes, so basically non-Anglos, non-white skin color, are not responsible for racism or hatred because they do not possess power. And power is always the ultimate goal when it comes to Marxism. So again, they're going to say that basically if you're not white, you cannot even be prejudiced or racist because you're not part of that power structure. Not a good way of thinking, not based on reality. Number 3, classical multiculturalism is going to say that the way forward is that a pluralistic society is most successful when there's a majority which possess high commonality in primary shared higher orders of thinking. So our intelligence, and not even say IQ, but just our thinking orders, the way we think, the way we process information. Independent thinking, logical thinking, objective thinking. That allows us to have discussions, even arguments, and come to conclusions in which we can be reasonable. What will the neo-Marxist multiculturalism, what will they say? Well, they'll say, no, a pluralistic society is most successful when people become woke. They become indoctrinated with social engineering theories of Western cultural power stratifications and begin to submit to these doctrines and oppose these perceived historical and oppressive Western cultural power structures. So basically, they're going to say, we have to indoctrinate people. We have to teach them so they understand, so they become aware that the West is terrible by nature. Any of the power structures of the West are horrible. And so basically, people that are white or heterosexual and or Christian and or nuclear family, they're going to have to understand that they're extremely privileged, that they're even racist by nature, they're oppressive, and if you're none of those things, then you're a victim, you've been oppressed. Again, it has nothing to do with reality, has nothing to do with other countries. Doesn't matter if the person is actually very powerful, very rich, very nice looking, very successful. I think we can see how divisive and just how wrong, how racist actually, and prejudice this doctrine is. We can even just say it's very dangerous. It's not the way forward. That a pluralistic society is most successful when there is a majority which possess high commonality in primary shared interpretation of reality. This is where it's at. If we have a worldview that's based on empirical evidence, physical, tangible evidence, maybe we need scientific mechanization to see that because it's microscopic, or we need a telescope to see distances, to perceive. But we look at the empirical reality, our physical world, and we can make assessments. We look at our biology. We're able to use logic to interpret this physical reality. Now, neo-Marxist multiculturalism, they're going to say that when people become indoctrinated, awoke to their doctrines, to their theories, again, it's not reality, but it's based on their theory of what reality should be, then they're going to say language is reality. It doesn't matter what actually happens, it just matters what you say. Doesn't this sound familiar with so many of our politicians? Both sides. We'll see politicians many times, although there are factions of politicians that are cultural Marxists as well. I don't want to also say that all politicians are alike. That's a blanket statement. That's not objective, not true. But there are a faction of politicians, although there are many, that are cultural Marxists. And if they say something, it can be considered justice or good. And if another person says the exact same thing, but they don't like that person, they don't consider that person part of their group identity, then they'll say it's bad. And they'll say, well, you just said the same thing. Doesn't matter. If I say it's good, they say it's bad. Or maybe they'll say something 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It's even on tape. It's on video. And they'll say the exact opposite later. And still it doesn't matter, because for them, reality is language. If I say it now, it doesn't matter that I contradict myself, because this is reality now. Again, this gets a little bit into postmodernism. There's just no meaning. And basically, as we've said before, if someone's of a different culture, if someone's of a different skin color, if someone's of a different nationality, they cannot objectively criticize or assess any other culture or any other person's actions. Because according to neo-Marxists, they're totally different and they just are incapable of understanding each other. Okay? I wonder how that works in an intermarriage. Because what would they say? Well, you can't talk to our kids, or you can. Or again, in reality, we see this doesn't work. How would a teacher work with kids who are all of different races in a multicultural classroom? How would a business boss talk to people that are of different races or different skin colors, different ethnicities? But we say, okay, we'll just do the rules for this group, but not this group. Again, we see in reality this does not work. Can you imagine an army if you had to lead to battle? And you say, well, okay, well, I'm a white general, you're a black general, you're a Hispanic general, you're the Asian general, you're the Arabic general, you can only command these people or those people. We know it won't work. Sports, okay, well, I can only captain these people, I can only coach these people. This does not work. It's not reality. It's not a good way.